Yes, here we go. It is the T.N.F, the night we hand over the keys to use, and we will get all your talking points. Sure, there'll be one or two talking points tonight to get through. I think that's understatement of the century. As always, on a Thursday at 5:30, we are joined by the resident judge, Mr. Cairney. How are we doing?
Doing very well, mate. I had a great night last night. I decided to watch the match. I don't do that. The Zombies. I seen your post yesterday saying this could have a wee defining moment of the season, basically, and I felt the same way. I genuinely thought yesterday they weren't going to win the match. I just had something in the air. I thought I'm going to watch this mob. I was not impressed. I was impressed with Dundee. Particularly their fans and the Cairney guy. He was brilliant. I mean, they played Life on Mars at full time. They played I'm Feeling It, Yellow Submarine, you name it. And then the Dundee fans singing You're Not Rangers Anymore. And Fuck the King made my night, mate. I loved it. But we'll go to that, I'm sure. But good vibes today, put it that way.
Yes, it was. It was good vibes. And I've got to share that view. I watched the whole game last night as well with a confident feeling I had, and then as the game went on, the strangest thing was that confidence actually was growing as the game went on, as opposed to getting more nervy, which tends to be what it is when you're watching your rivals in a crucial game. You just want them to hold on, and yet my confidence as the game went on was growing. And to be honest, I think the only disappointment was it wasn't a Dundee win. That's my honest takeaway from it, and we will talk about their performance, where they're at as well in this title race, because Celtic haven't played since Saturday. They've played twice. So anyone thinking you're obsessed and all that stuff, well, I'm obsessed with winning titles, or Celtic winning titles, I should say. I am obsessed with Celtic doing that, and I'll be focusing on who can get in our road of winning titles as much as what you should be, I think, when it comes to this. So I will certainly be more than happy to discuss where they think they're at in this race, and then, more importantly, where Celtic are with 5 games to go in the driving seat. Yes, will they get over the line? Will there be any more slip-ups? Is it now all systems go and we see the real Celtic for the last 5 games of this season and we actually end up running away with it? That is the hope, but we'll discuss the pros, cons to that argument as well, absolutely. We'll do all that good stuff and then we'll get stuck right in. All that good stuff means please do give us a wee like, give us a share, slag the hair, optional. You can't slag. The football top's on display though tonight. We're looking great, mate. I love it.
I had to get changed, could you?
I didn't know if you'd say that.
I had to one with some grey Celtic zipper that they never wore once this season, and I went, he's wearing some cracking cap for the 90s. I ain't going to get changed into something that looks half decent. That's the thing. We do pods live and on camera, mate. You can't wear your jammies in this pod. You need to put on some sort of, at least try a wee bit to look decent.
No, mate, absolutely. We'll die trying, mate, at the very least. You know what I mean? Remember as well, give us a wee. I'm not sure about the blue. It's purple. You've seen it before. What is wrong? It's a purple Fiorentina top. It is not blue. Joe C coming in though with the early compliments. What a legend you are, Joe. He says, greetings from the Emerald Isle. Hi, Bhoycie. Hi, Marc. The best Celtic podcast online, bar none. Keep up the great work. I agree, mate.
Thanks,
I agree, Joe. Well done. Just a joke. But anyway, all that good stuff means do give us a like, give us a share. Hit the subscribe button. We jumped up 22 subscribers last night, Marc. 22 in one fatal swoop. We had a wee show last night, 26 minutes, just a wee bus extra, and we did about 6,000 views as well. So big thank you to everyone who's been tuning in and now hitting that subscribe button. Remember to hit the bell and all that shite as well. If you want to become a member, like so many of you have, such as Gary Brown, Jim Dolan, Smelly Glove, Jim Dolan again, why no? Scott Melville, 420 somewhere, Patrick McLaughlin. Oh, honestly, man. Members everywhere. You ready for one more, Marc? You ready for one more? Martin K.
Go for
it. Hey. We got a few more. I think I was on a wee delay there. Right, okay. We will get stuck in. Aye. So what we will be discussing then first and foremost, Marc, is your overall feelings with last night and where it leaves the title race. Obviously, the gloating and all that's great fun, and by the way, I'm all for it. And I think we've had a season this year where we've been the receiving end of a lot of negative patter, a lot of negative sort of narratives as well. And I don't think a lot of it's been warranted. People get a wee bit, people get a bit confused by that. I think the me being a Brendan sort of apologist, if you like, I'm the first one on here who said I think he's looked lost in the touchline at times. I think he's been indecisive with his changes that he's made. I think he's got subs wrong. I spoke about 2 right, 2 wrong at Ibrox. We spoke about the eye test of how the team's played and how it's been pretty underwhelming in several stages this season. I don't think he did well enough in the transfer windows and was forceful enough in his message to the board. So with all that said, I also think there's been maybe over negativity towards what Celtic have been doing this year. And I think that's fucking fair to discuss. It's called bringing balance to debating. I've got wrong with that, do you know what I mean? But last night we seen a team, I think that's now 8 games, 2 wins from it. We don't get away with going on runs like that, Mark. We don't get away with going on runs like that. And that's the reality of the form they're on. And I stand by it. And I'll say it to you again. In those 8 games, their best result in those 8 games is a draw with us. And that was scraped in the last minute at home in what was a must-win game for them. How are you feeling about how it's all laid out now going forward?
Well, even their good press comes with a price, Bhoycie, because the focus on them performing so well when they're playing pretty poorly. The attention on their actual form hasn't been magnified by the press, so they've got away with it. But eventually that comes to roost. You know what I mean? You're going to get results that aren't going to be you can't put under the carpet. And we've found out the last couple of weeks. I thought they were lucky to get a draw against us. I thought 3-2 flattered Rangers. I saw the highlights of the Ross County game, and last night I thought Dundee were very comfortable, mate. So I think that you're right. Celtic have had a lot of bad press this season, and if we draw or lose one game, the press are on it straight away, whereas Rangers get away with it. But as I say, that creates another monster where the Rangers players don't feel the pressure as much, and when the pressure is put on them, they're not used to it, and they begin to buckle. And you're finding out recently that Rangers players, your Taverniers, your Golson, you can name them all, they don't respond well to pressure, and it's beginning to see it be told, even in the sidelines with that manager too. He's a crazy guy. He's came for fucking Mars, I know him. And how I'm feeling just now is I'm still taking it one game at a time in terms of I still think if you rewind 2 weeks ago, I would have said Rangers were 60-40 to win the league. That's flipped for me. That's maybe even 70-30 for Celtic. I mean, Celtic have got a wee bit of momentum. They've Hatati's back. He's made a difference in midfield. McGregor's not even come back into the team yet, and we've still won a couple of games without him. We've not missed him, and Carter Vickers back. You name it. But there's also the part of me that's no one to jump out and say, do you know what? For me, it's all done, because I think we've got 5 more games to go, and of those 5 teams we're going to play, we'll be beat 4 times and drew once against the teams remaining. One was home and away, and one was 2 different competitions at a stadium that we have to go to. So there's plenty of pitfalls, and so I'm not going to get dragged into that. But what I will say is, boys, is I'm more hopeful than what I was. I mean, anybody that's watched Celtic the last month or so, just before the international break, you've seen a wee kick on the Celtic. They're kicking on now. As Roger says, Celtic come alive at this time of the season, and it's all just words until you see it on the park. But with I mean, all the press and even us, the fan media, we were all slating the January window because it was poor. It was very poor. It was really, really bad, underwhelming, shocking, you name it. But Adam Idah, I think, it's the January signing of the season. There's not been a player that's been bought by any club in January that made an impact in Scotland like Adam Idah. If you take away that Matondo equaliser, Bhoycie, that guy would have been involved in the last minute winner at Ibrox, a last minute winner at Motherwell, 2 penalties at Easter Road. He has a goal at Celtic Park, a couple of goals at Celtic Park, and he's also turned in some decent performances. He's been the player of the year, and so we've in January that is. So we've done better than what the press and what our own minds want to tell us. But one thing's for sure, Bhoycie, is it's going to be a 5 matches. It's going to give you a heart attack. So if your heart's not big enough, go and take a dog for a walk, mate, because it's going to be nail biting, I think. And I'm up for it, mate. My heart might not be, but I just can't wait till it's over. I'm one of the guys, Bhoycie, says I don't enjoy it while it's happening. I enjoy the celebrating at the end of it.
Well, the celebrating at the end of it is interesting. I mean, just on a wee side note from that, I mean, a lot of the leagues that we've won over the last sort of 10, 14 years, whatever it's been, a lot of them have been sort of expected to have been won months before now even, and have all been relatively sort of straightforward to the end. And
procession,
procession's a good word. I like that. And what it means is, this time around, the fact we've had that fear at one point, this might be something like the 60-40 that you say, that maybe it was in favour of Rangers at one point, even a few weeks ago. That should all be timely reminders for us as well as fans that they don't grow on trees, these titles. And I think there's been a bit of an undervaluation of what it was to win trebles, even, let alone titles. I think even trebles became like the expectancy level, and it was a disaster if we didn't. Now, we know that is thanks to actually the manager we've got in situ right now, who seemed to change that curve. He won our first treble since Martin O'Neill, if I'm not mistaken, in 2000, 2001. And then Rodgers got his first one in 16-17. We won a second, 17-18. Lenny got us over the line in 18-19. And then we won it again, albeit it got a bit weird with the Scottish Cup final in December and all that, or whenever it was. That was all a bit weird, but it was 4 trebles in a row.
Aye.
Then Ange won a treble again last season, and suddenly you're looking at 5 and 8 years, I think it was, 5 and 7 years, and you're going, that's fucking ridiculous. And I think it can almost at times not devalue the achievement as such, but create an expectancy that's unrealistic, and probably does, to an extent, lead to a bit more entitlement. And I know that's not me going down Lenny Lane, if you want to call it that, of saying fans are entitled and all that nonsense. But I do think with it, there has got to be an element of, the expectancy becomes a bit unrealistic. And sometimes it's, we need to take stock and appreciate even winning the league title, let alone trebles. And I think this year, getting a flavour of what it was like to be in a title race again, and to almost feel at one point this is slipping through our fingers, and 60 million quid might be going their way. Bragging rights, I think, probably is more at the forefront of our minds going that way. And I can honestly say that makes it sweeter when you then turn it around and you look like you're going to go on and win it. We've not won it yet, and you're right to point that out. But such has been the feeling this year that, hold on here, we could fuck this up. That creates complete fear in my eyes, and it's a horrible thought to have. And I wonder if this title, are we to go on and win it, if we are to go on and win it, I wonder if that'll make us just a wee bit more like appreciative, Judge, of the achievement, and that feeling of satisfaction just be that wee bit higher than maybe what it's been of late, because we have had these bumps along the road and those reality checks along the way.
I think it'll make you humble, to be quite honest with you. I think that's the word I would use, because we have, as you said, there's been a lot of titles, Dyla, and it was a procession to the title. It was like basically when, no if, and even going back 4 or 5 years ago under Rodgers, it was straightforward after we beat them 5-1 in September or August, and that was it. And we've not had this for a while. Okay, Ange, twice we went into the split, still needing to win games, but I think the majority is knew we were going to win it, Bhoycie. There was no ifs or buts at the end of it, you know what I mean? And this one for me it's different, because it's been a roller coaster, and you've been 9 points clear, and then you've been behind. And then they've slipped up, and then we're back in front again. And then you've not got a chance to process it all. You don't know where to be jubilant and start posting stuff online and being cocky, or where to hold back like I'm doing, because I'm very cautious. And anybody that's want to be brazen about it, good on you, enjoy it, man, go for it, because we get enough. The flack we get when Celtic lose a match or Rangers win is just, that's how I've told you, boys, if we're not going to win it, I'm going out to Glasgow for the weekend. I've told you, and I mean that, because I'm not wanting to be listening to fireworks Huns walking by with drums. I don't want to hear it. So they rub it in their faces. So give them it back. I just tend not to take it well, so I don't get out too much. But I tell you something, boys. The players that we've had at our disposal, they should have finished it, I think, a long time ago, because that isn't a good Rangers team either. But it still took a lot of man management by Brendan Rodgers to get this far. I mean, I'll criticise him. He should have done better with the tools he's got in certain stages of the season. But when you take a step back, he has been fighting with one arm behind his back. But although I think the league he's fighting, the league he is fighting, haven't got any arms. You know what I mean? He's fighting. He's got all the tools at his disposal. He's got Lennoxtown and got Livingston playing, and you know what I mean, Bhoycie. But I think when the dust settles on this season, and you're a winner, satisfaction will be the overriding feeling. I mean, you'll be satisfied beyond belief. You know what I mean? I think sometimes you take a wee bit of greater satisfaction on the ones that just got over the line than you did the ones that won 5-0. The feeling walking out a stadium with a last minute winner is totally different from winning 5-0, Bhoycie. And the same goes with the league. Winning with 10 points, there's a satisfaction, there's a bravado about it, and you're cock of the walk for the summertime. But just picking a team, it's got its own satisfaction, you know what I mean? And I think for me, if we hold out and do what we're supposed to be doing, I think summertime will be, for me, it'll be spent looking back on a season where I was up and down, and for me, it was over 2 or 3 times, and the full shebang of being a Celtic fan. But satisfaction would be the overriding feeling for this season, and sometimes letting that mob have the hope and then fading away is just as satisfying as watching them lose a match against Ross County 3-2.
Oh yes, I think that's a good point. Let's talk about what we saw then last night. You said you watched the game from the start. I mean, I've got plenty of Rangers supporting mates and all that stuff. No folk don't like hearing that, but I do. And even at work, there's a couple as well. And you know, the vibe I'm getting off them all is they feel it's done now. They all, to a man, have said we won't win fuck all. They seem really despondent on the team's level of performance the last 2 games now. Albeit, I didn't see the Ross County one, but I certainly watched the whole game last night. And as I was saying at the top of the show, I've got to be honest and say at no point did I think Rangers were going to score. And that's not being confident after the event. I mean, during it, and I'm the first to admit, when you're watching those bastards, the one thing you are hoping for, you get nervy, mate. But you're not hoping for nerves. Sorry, that sounded stupid. You're hoping as opposed to expecting the result to go your favour for Dundee to pick up a point or whatever. But last night I felt like Dundee are missing a trick here. They're there for the taking. And I actually was almost disappointed that they never went on and got a winner. But see, like the last 5 minutes, for example, I never was I sitting thinking to myself, like Charlie Nicholas sitting thinking, but I wasn't sitting there like going, oh, it's inevitable. There'll be wave after wave of attack. The goals coming for Rangers, which, to be honest with you, is a normal sensation to have when you're watching. You normally have that wee feeling and you go, oh, you're resigned to it. Those bastards will go get a goal, do you know what I mean, right at the end. I didn't have that last night. I felt they looked like a team who'd run their race. And when they get posed a lot of questions in a condensed period of time, i.e. Sunday to Wednesday, and those questions come with a hell of a lot of pressure, and they're loaded questions with pressure, I think they're still struggling to find answers. They're still looking at their shoelaces. They're still not taking responsibility. There's a lot of the guys in that team that have got one title to their name, and I guarantee you, mate, history will be kinder to Celtic on that league campaign in 10 years' time than what it is now. I already can feel it a wee bit because it's going to look such an anomaly. And it will if Celtic can keep building from now. If Celtic were to go on and win the league this year, look at that financial gulf. Absolutely dwarfing, what resources Rangers will have. I just can't help but feel that when you look at their squad of players, their pool of players, the core of it, Mark, just serial failures in this sort of environment. Now, last night, if I was saying that, I'd be doing it with a big smug grin. I'm trying to just I've been completely honest about it right now. I look at guys in their team who, see, when it comes to getting the job done, and it really matters, I don't think they've got enough guys you can hang your hat on. I still think we do. And I think we've had a guy like Cameron Carter-Vickers, for example, coming back to the team. We've seen that confidence that even as a fan watching, you are far more confident with that backline of Celtic, with Cameron Carter-Vickers there, even if the other three personnel aren't your favoured players at Celtic at this moment in time. Your assurance levels rise because of Cameron Carter-Vickers being the team. Someone who you know has been round this block, someone you know who associates his time with Celtic with league titles. And we've obviously got it littered throughout the squad. At the very least, the 2 titles under Ange for a lot of them. And then you've got others who have been around the block many more times than that. I watched last night a team that looked fragile, Judge, and I just wonder what your thoughts are. If we take Celtic out the equation for now, our rivals, where are they placed right now in terms of their mentality and where they find themselves in terms of form as well?
Well, I think their mentality is very weak, Bhoycie. I think every goal they've scored this season against Celtic has been when they're behind in the game. You know what I mean? And that's telling that they don't go for it. They don't cope well with being the favourites. They don't cope well with having the actual momentum. You know what I mean? They don't cope well with it. And I think that the Motherwell game at Ibrox killed them. They weren't expecting it. They thought it was just a case of turning up, getting their penalties and getting on with it. And they found out in Motherwell at Ibrox that day, that to win a title, it's not about putting in 8 performances in a row, boys. You've got to have 30 good games. You know what I mean? You've got to take the blows. You've got to take the last minute defeats, and you've got to take the gone behind that's at home against a team with no fans and the rest of it. And they didn't cope well. I mean, the first shot in target in the second half at the game at Ibrox for the Fleets game was their equaliser in the 82nd minute, or whatever it was a deflection. They apparently kicked the goal, but they weren't threatening our goal, boys. They weren't threatening Ross County's Dundee's goal either. You mentioned it. I did get nervous getting the last maybe 5 minutes, but I was just waiting for the penalty, to be quite honest with you. But there was no shots at goal in the last couple of minutes. The keeper wasn't coming out and grabbing balls and rolling down and, the heart and the myth stuff. I thought Dundee were actually, I thought they were going to score that. He was brilliant. I thought he was going to get a winner for them.
Luke McKibben, mate. Luke McKibben. Yes, I'm glad you've highlighted him. We'll talk a wee bit about him if you want as well. Carry on. Sorry.
No, that's all right though. He looked class. I talk about him if you want. I think he's ex-Rangers as well, actually. But I think see, there's always a parallel. To people in Scotland when you support Celtic and Rangers. Both, as Roger said, both can be on a high at the same time. See the feeling that we've got this morning. They're feeling the exact opposite. So their negativity and their kicked in the stomach feeling this morning when they got up for work. That's in the dressing room too. That's in the training ground this morning. They'll be feeling that. They'll be, as you say, staring at their shoelaces. They'll be, that half a yard slower and all the rest of it. We know that Celtic are capable of pulling a game like that with the hat and all, boys, and getting a draw or a defeat. We know this Celtic team on the fucking vintage, right? So we'll not talk about that too much, but so it's the mental strength that matters, boys. And I think this Rangers team have proven they might win the league this year. I'm not saying they're no, but they've proven that mentally they're no up for a fight. I think the COVID season, if you remember, you mentioned it, right? If you remember, straight away, with ball and goalie, they get 2 games in hand straight. They get 2 games in tap players straight away. There was no pressure since day one. Since day dot, they were just riding easy. There was no pressure put on him at any stage of the season. I think if we did turn around in October and make a change and start pulling back points, I think their asses would have collapsed in our day. But you look at any time they've had any sort of wake up call, it's normally happened that on the aftermath of that, the results start to decline very quickly. I mean, I read they've won 2 matches out of the last 9. How they pressed when they picked it up, is mind-boggling. But I'm not surprised. I sent you a video last night of Jonathan Sutherland at full time, and his expression when he was speaking, it was like somebody died in the family. I was going to phone his next of kin to make sure he was all right. He was depressed. I thought that is a feeling all the way through government, and long may it continue, boys, because they as I always say, it's like England World Cup, pre-World Cup. They see no outcome whatsoever than victory. They've got no part of their brain that sees anything other than victory. So seeing it doesn't happen for them, they turn angry, they start fighting each other, and it's good to watch.
Well, it is good to watch, definitely. And I mean, I think that Rangers team must be the highest number of Rangers players ever to be told to fuck off by their fans twice. I've never seen you fuck off. You fuck off. Up that tunnel. Things like that do make you laugh. And of course that's just part and parcel of the rivalry.
Yeah.
And like I always try to say in the bus, we shouldn't be having any influence on how this title outcome goes. This is now down to the guys who get paid to do this. As your manager, your coaching staff, your players. We're just having a bit of fun with the rivalry of the two sets of supporters. And to be honest, we'd expect it the other way around, and we do get it the other way around. So unfortunately, that is what's going to happen. I do want to talk about the 2 wins from 8, though. That's a record that includes getting beat at home to Motherwell. It involves a draw, scraping the draw with us. It involves Ross County's first ever win in their history against them. It involves the goalless draw at Dens Park. And of course, it involves the 2 games with Benfica, where I think they drew 1, lost 1. Is that right? I think that's right. I still think from those 8 games, as I know I've said it already, but I think their best result was the 3-3 draw with us in those 8 games as well. That's a team in terrible form right now. You would not have known it going into last night, mate.
No.
You would not have felt that the screw was being turned on this team. And if that was Celtic going into Dens Park last night, holy fuck, mate. We'd been watching it from behind the couch before the game even kicked off. Because of everything would have led you to it, whether consciously or subconsciously. When you're hearing the radio, the TV, anyone, any pundit, any newspaper article all saying this team's in free fall, because that's how it'd be described. Free fall, Mark. I watched the performance last night, and that is worse than anything, in my opinion, I've seen from Celtic this season in terms of quality, in terms of mentality. And I know we've had 2 moments. Sorry.
No. See if Philip Clement was driving the Costa Concordia, our press would blame the island that he crashed into. This is the press they get in this country. But that creates a monster as well, because you get complacent. You don't see, like, whereas I think Celtic players, they feel the pressure and they're used to the pressure, they're used to the bad press, and they must get a lift out of it when they turn it round. Manchester players don't get it, Bhoycie. He's a way to brush his hair. But this is what happens all the time in Scottish football. I mean, we've seen it. I mean, I listened to, I think it was Off the Ball 2 weeks ago, and they were saying that Rangers were the form team in the country, and I'm like, no, they're no. I checked the form guide, and they were like 4th in the league on the form guide. Now there's something like 9th or something shit like that. But as I say, boys, I think, see, as long as they keep on getting good press, they won't focus their attention onto the reality of it all. Celtic, because we're slagged so much, and because we've got a different standard to them, Bhoycie.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's for the manager, for the way we conduct ourselves. I mean, Scott somebody tell me last week or 2 weeks ago how the Rangers manager was allowed to claim a victory. You know, Rangers podcast about, well, I'm glad he scored the winning goal. I'm like, the game was free each. What the fuck were you watching? You know what I mean? And he said that they got a moral victory, right? So I'm hoping he means morale, right? But if he's saying moral, this is the same fan base that day who flung objects at our dugout, flung bottles at our players. So
I hadn't thought of that, though. Do you think he was talking about it was a victory for the team's morale?
It must be morale.
I've never even thought of that.
It must be morale, Bhoycie.
That's not as fun, Mark. No, I didn't like that. I'm going with moral.
I mean, surely, but I mean, if he's talking about moral, I mean, what morals is there in singing about killing Catholics and flinging glass bottles at players and flinging vodka bottles, Buckfast bottles at Celtic players celebrating? There's no morals in that, mate. Well, not that there's much inside Ibrox at the best of times, but I assume it means morale, right? But But see in the same match day, before the game, he was talking about the players' mentality. So that just tells you that he must question their mentality as well. If he's saying it full time, he's mentioning morale. If that's boosted morale, well, where was the morality? Where was the morale before the match? Is he seeing things that we know are in the camp? Tavernier saying that the players don't treat pressure well. Is he seeing that himself? Is he telling us without telling us that his players are weak mentally? I mean, I watched Cantwell last night, and do you know, I tend to watch Rangers players and I try to pick out their good points and their bad points, right, and be a bit more fairer than I do with Celtic players. But see him last night, Bhoycie. He is utter fucking pish, right? He's posting pictures of himself stoning after getting beat off of teams, and he's posting pictures saying, "Oh, I'm sad about that," and with a selfie, and pure oblivious to the situation. Last night, he was pissed. The last throw of dice was to bring on an 18-year-old, 19-year-old who had done absolute zero for them, and he's in the next big hope for them. You know, he's a great big hype, and Isaac Blouse, and this is what I'm saying. Like TikTok, or what it's called, they get no unbiased fucking press. There's no unbiased press. You ask Michael Stewart, you ask that boy that gets sent to Dundee with the long hair, that the journalist. You ask him what happens when you give but unbiased press towards Rangers. You don't last long in this game. You know what I mean? And Michael Stewart's probably fell victim of that. I think he's lost a lot of TV work because of that, to be quite honest with you, and a lot of gigs out of that. You don't see him much as he used to. But the reality is, you can't hide behind positive press forever, boys. It's going to smack you in the face one day. Unfortunately for the press in our country, football is played on grass, not with a typewriter. You know what I mean?
Well, it certainly is, mate. It certainly is played on grass, not a typewriter. There's a few interesting takeaways. I mean, I think a lot of their players get overhyped as well, and I think Celtic are. You're right about the standards. I love that point that you make, because we are held to a different standard. But I also like what I like about being a Celtic fan is I always think we hold our players to a higher standard as well, and I don't think we jump to this guy's the best thing since sliced bread instantly with players. I think we let them feel their way into it, and then some of them will make it, some of them won't. And if anything, we probably all fall. You maybe are a wee bit further than most, but we all fall in the scenario where we're maybe a wee bit overcritical sometimes, or of our team. That's just because we care. I feel that theirs is all spoof. It's all about just telling folk you're world beaters, telling the world that this player's going to do that, and it's almost like it's their own bluff. And I'm not sure they all believe what they're saying. I think it's a subconscious thing now. It's a front, and it's all to be the same Rangers as they were in the 90s. And that is their glory era at the end of the day. And it was all built on freaking sand, essentially, because that did come down like a house of cards, you could say as well. I mean, I just look at the players and I go, at the end of the day, we were raging at Adam Idah coming in as a third choice Norwich player. Cantwell was in the stands for Norwich. He wasn't even on the subs bench of fuck all. I don't think when they got, I think they paid 150 grand for him. I do think we said there's Brown Murray, he's in agreement as well. I mean, Brown, great to have you back on the bus, mate. And he's saying, to be fair, we do set higher standards also. I do think there's a bit of that. Ryan Taylor wants to call it Rangers propaganda. We'll go into some of the comments that are coming. Remember, get your hashtags in, hashtag T.N.F, and we will try and go through some of your points tonight, because it's always good fun doing this as well. We'll go back to All Matters Celtic, and it's Stephen Kennedy who comes in. Brilliant as well to have you on the channel, mate. And he's saying, Bhoycie, I would personally start Forrest on Saturday, get 60 minutes off him, then we have Palmer or Yang on the bench to replace him, preferably Palmer. I mean, it's more than preferably Palmer for me if he is coming off the bench. James Forrest, an interesting one. There's a bit of know-how about James Forrest at the very least, and there is less panic when he's on the ball. He's not trying to overly impress, if you like. Now, you could take that any way you want, I suppose. It's because he maybe doesn't impress some. But I don't know. I think he plays with a level of calmness. I've not minded his his cameo displays of late, Mark. I've not minded what James Forrest has brought to the table recently. He does have a goal in him also, but not just that. I think he'll retain the ball better. He's very much a team player, and that experience can be crucial. James Forrest isn't the answer of Celtic's problems. Any problems Celtic have this season or this summer that they want to address won't be answered. James Forrest won't feature in any of those answers. But in a title running, sometimes styles make fights. And sometimes you've got to just look at it for what it is right now. And if you need know-how and you need to get the job done, having someone with the trophy haul James Forrest has got, that calmer sort of presence in the team. And as I say, footballing-wise, he has a goal in him. I think he's the biggest threat still as a goal-scoring winger that we have. And that's without him, with him losing half a yard of pace. I think you'll see him make legs runs, but better timed runs. And I think when it comes to finishing, I fancy him as a finisher big time ahead of all the other wingers that we've got. You look at Idah, it can be one shot on target, the next three out the stand. Palmer, he crosses when he should shoot. He shoots when he should cross, albeit he's got double figures, I think, for both goals and assists this year, which is what kind of the remit was for him. But he's inconsistent too. Maedah's so effective as a player in this Celtic side. He would have been the weapon Rodgers wanted to use for the running the most. Without him there, we need to compromise. I think there is a space where James Forrest could suddenly skip the queue for this running, and then I would just say, shake hands, pay up the contract. You've now got the freedom to go do what you want. Don't stand in his way. Don't make life difficult. Do the right thing. And let's see what he can do with the rest of his career elsewhere. And maybe it sound like going to the States for James Forrest. I think would be fucking brilliant for him. Do you know what I mean? And get a few years out there. I always remember, is it Sean Wright Phillips' big brother, Bradley Wright Phillips, went there about 30 years old and he ended up scoring like 100 goals for, who the fuck was it? The Red Bulls and that. And he'd sort of converted from being all about pace and all that to just got a dynamic forward to in a league where you get a wee bit more space. I think somewhere like that for him anyway. Maybe Saudi could join Jota. You never know. I don't think he'd be one of the higher earners over there. But I think for the run-in, that might be a weapon that Stephen's talking about that's been not used much this season, but we could see feature more heavily between now and the end of the season. But for balance, I would have thought that would have included then an appearance at Ibrox, and it didn't. So maybe he is not as close to having, dictating outcomes for Rodgers' side and Rodgers' mind anyway, is what some folk on here are suggesting.
I think Rodgers has spelled out to us what his role is. He's the guy that's got to come on and finish a game after Celtic, or at least kind of stabilise things. I don't think he's a starter for a Celtic team. He's not been a Celtic first 11 player for now talking 5 seasons. I think his last, Neil Lennon's season that got curtailed was the last time he was a starter for Celtic Bhoycie. I think the COVID season he was even in and out of the team. So you're talking about 5 seasons ago nearly, or maybe 4 seasons ago. So I've seen folk on Twitter mention him, and fair dues, when he's come on, he's looked as if he's adding something to the team. He still looks fit. It looks like he's kept himself in good condition. You know what I mean? I think he's definitely not sat in the sidelines and just put on weight and no board his arse. He's definitely fighting week in, week out. So in that regard, he deserves to be in the squad. I think Rodgers has already told us what his plan is for him just by his selection. You know what I mean? We don't see Monday to Friday, boys. So the only optics we've got is the guys on the park, how much game time they get and when they're used. And I think it's been spelled out to us that he's not going to be seeing 90 minutes or an hour for Celtic very often this season. But he's contributed this season. He's got a couple of goals. He stepped in, as you said, they win the Ibrox. Hampden Park's a big, wide pitch. It's roughly the same size as Celtic Park. I think Celtic make it round about the exact same size. I think Celtic have done that for years now, so they can enjoy that size of pitch and they're used to that size of pitch. And so Celtic like the width, you know what I mean? And Forrest, he's actually still got a lot of pace. I think it was Ange was saying last season, or somebody was saying last season, that him and Maeda done a race, and I think Maeda won it, or just won it, you know what I mean? I think Forrest has still got pace, you know what I mean? And to me, I think you mentioned the wingers. I think we've got a very poor array of wingers. So if Forrest can come in I think you've come in by now, Bhoycie, to be quite honest with you. I think we've tried every permutation. I mean, your Maz due a start next week, I think, because everybody else is a shot. And the fact of the matter is, if he was going to be playing, he'd been playing in December and January when we had nobody, Bhoycie. We were struggling for a while, weren't we? Idah was coming in. I mean, we were struggling, and then he didn't get a start really. So, for me, him or your ma Sunday, I'm not Saturday, I'm not entirely sure who's going to get a start, but Yang, I thought Yang was shite.
It was the everyone else has had a short comment that really kind of threw me, Mark.
Aye.
He said your must due a start. Everyone else has had a shot. I thought,
aye,
he better not still be talking about my mum.
No. The Rivers have been nullified, mate. I can assure you. It takes more than 4 ciders for her. Unlike you.
I was trying not to laugh. Anyway, talking about Hampden then. See, when you look at the Scottish Cup semi-final, Aberdeen, a team that have just announced a new manager, but the new managers are coming until June, they constantly just seem to stand at McInnes has left to be on push the reset button, try again. See, from a Celtic point of view, I don't think anyone's focused on this Scottish Cup semi-final in terms of, because of that league game last night, it was always going to have serious permutations in the title race. The focus on the Scottish Cup, I think Scott Brown's done an interview or something recently. Even that, from my own personal point of view, I didn't even check and watch it. Usually, come Wednesday, Thursday, Scott Brown's talking about Tom Rogic's going to Scottish Cup final. I'll have a bit of that content. I want to hear about that. And you're getting yourself into that place where Scottish Cup semi-final is fucking coming up. Do you know what I mean? Like, we want to watch this. And see, it feels like it's kind of been on the periphery. I'm not against that. I think sometimes it's a good thing. I think if Rangers win last night, it's their treble's still on. And if Celtic don't win this, then, you know, in their semi-final, it could be a Rangers treble. I mean, it still could technically be a Rangers treble this year, which is bizarre to say, and I don't think it will happen, but it's still potential. I think that would have been the narrative ramped up on that, and how much pressure's under Celtic to make sure that they win one of the remaining trophies, to do not let Rangers win their first treble since 1914. Do you know what I mean? All that sort of thing. But with it being dumbed down and played down so much because of all the drama their title rivals are causing and all the negativity they're bringing on themselves, I think we've kind of we're going into this Aberdeen game, mate, with a free pass. And we're going in against, honestly, a basket case of a club right now, in my opinion. Yes, they think they've created their new structure with their new manager coming in, reported by a Swedish journalist as the most boring man in football. But we've seen them do this before with their innovative ways. You know, when they brought in Stephen Glass from Atlanta and things like that. He was even a manager at Atlanta United. He was the head coach or something, or the first team coach, sorry. And then they brought him in his first ever managerial gig. And I think they're trying to be creative again. I hope for their sake that Dave Cormack doesn't make any more football decisions, albeit I do feel you'll have a part to have played in this. I could be proved wrong. But I think right now the fact that they're a wee bit in disarray, Celtic semi-final seems to be going under the radar, shall we say, to say the least. Suits us perfect. Let's just get to the Scottish Cup semi-final, business as usual, early kick-off Saturday, get back up the road, place in the final secured, and get the popcorn out for the Sunday one. Because I think there will be a hell of a lot more eyes on Hearts Rangers. It feels that way, that what there will be Celtic Aberdeen. Now, that's not because I'm saying it's a foregone conclusion. Please don't get me wrong on this. I'm really not. But I can't help but feel that there is an apathy towards Celtic Aberdeen Scottish Cup semi-final that I think people are kind of going, Celtic will scooch that. And we're not even getting that sort of ramping up or attempted ramping up of the pressure on us. And I actually do think that plays into our hands a wee bit as well, because the less sort of heat, the less all that nonsense, you can just be laser focused on the job at hand. I mean, Celtic are like that. They tend to get the result that's required domestically.
It's all consuming. The league's all consuming just now. The reason why there's been no press are focused on Celtic, because any press on Celtic just now would be positive, and they don't want positive press on Celtic. So that's why you're not feeling it, Bhoycie. I think it's all consuming, the fact that the league's the most important thing to us. We're all totally laser focused on that. We're enjoying the car crash at Ibrox just now the last week. I think I read they've lost 10 points in the last 15 or something. So the focus is on laughing at that mob rather than our next game, and I agree, there's been nothing in the paper, nothing like near ramping up with this game. I'll be there. The only discussions I've had is getting my care out for it and the rest of it, and that, I've not really been thinking much about it at all. And
that's unusual, isn't it? It is unusual for a semi-final of the Scottish Cup, I would say.
Definitely at half-12 kick-off, and I'll get that to fuck. I'm going to have time for 2 drinks, then I'll have to get a taxi down there. I've not got a chance to enjoy it. But it is true, because when you mentioned it, I only thought about it, like, genuinely, like, I think if you asked me who we were playing, it would take me 3 seconds to figure out who. I would have to go, Aberdeen. And by the way, can I just say, if Aberdeen were happy to wait till the start of the season, how the fuck they didn't appoint Tony Dock as a manager, I can't understand that. That guy's a standout candidate for at least challenging for play the manager of the year this season. He's took Dundee to the top 6. I think they might even get 5th. I think the chance of that. I mean,
there'll be European football potentially as well.
Yeah. Aye. And the football, they've lost as many goals as they've scored, but that just tells you he's probably playing a brand of football that Dundee can't cope with. You know what I mean? Rather than just being naive and just going hell for leather. I don't see why Aberdeen never took him. I thought I said it in the pod last month, he was a stick-on for his Aberdeen assistant manager under McInnes. He's well liked within football. I think he might be a Celtic man, I'm not sure. But so I think they missed out on that one. But Aberdeen, I mean, you mentioned Aberdeen remind me a very, to a small level, like Man U. Their biggest problem is they're not sticking to a plan. It's like scattergun, fix this, put a hole in that, fix a hole there. And nothing's been long term and fixed properly. There's a structure and just rebrand and you name it. Aberdeen have been doing that since I lost McInnes. Just giving that guy the job, bring in Scott Brown and with this guy Glass and see if that works. Then okay, sack Scott Brown as well. Bring in Barry Robson. Okay, you worked. Warnock for a month. No, that is just crazy talk, Bhoycie. And maybe that's part of it. I think if we were playing Hearts, maybe
there'd be more focus on it. Yeah, there's a reflection on where Aberdeen are as well. You're right. You are right.
I just saw busy Hearts and Rangers on Sunday. I think the computer that figured out these fixtures, they've done that. The last game of the season, Rangers v Hearts, that's a clever one, because I'll tell you why. If the worst thing happens and Hearts beat Rangers, right, the last game of the season, Hearts will drop all their players for the cup final. So Rangers have got an easy 3 points, right? And in the same way, if Rangers had won the semi-final, they were going into the game at Tynecastle, last game of the season, hopeful chasing a treble. You know what I mean? So I think the SFA knew that we're doing there, because really, and some crazy thought in my mind, Hearts beating Rangers in Sunday, which I want, could be a bad thing for the league campaign, because if we're playing, just say for instance, we're playing Hearts in the final, Hearts will drop all their first team players to keep them fresh for Hampden, and then give Rangers 3 points as a gimme. So the last game of the season, they're guaranteed 3 points. You know what I'm saying? It's fun again. And it does make you think. You know what I mean? Like on the paper, it looks like a bad fixture for Rangers, but I don't think it is. You know what I mean? And so a wee small part of me, well, half an inch a part of me wants to see Rangers just get through so that Hearts can't. But I want to see them get fucked at the cup and all. Don't get me wrong, but it's worth considering.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
what you mean.
It's not a bad result. You know what I mean? If Rangers beat them, because if they want to win the cup, they're going to beat us, and then Hearts will still have something to at least play for, to say cheer out their fans at the last game of the season.
Patrick McLaughlin comes in, Judge, and he's saying, #T.N.F, should we get camera visuals of the VAR control centre up here? I've seen it in England. Why is it not the same up here? For all we know, Hugh Dallas is standing there advising your Nick Walshes, etc. Patrick, it's probably a topic that we've exhausted a wee bit on the bus, but I'm sure we can revisit more in the summer. Not to be dismissive of your comment whatsoever, by the way, mate, 'cause I think it's a fair point you make, but I'm sure it all just boils down to the fact we've got the 2-strike version of VAR and not the real one, and that's where your differences are. The real VAR is a proper setup and what is paid for by the English. We're literally doing it in a cabin, a porta cabin or whatever it is, and we had to use all our own officials, no VAR officials included whatsoever. It's just all our own officials being trained up to be VAR officials. So what we really did in a nutshell, Patrick, as far as I'm concerned, when we went to VAR, was we let more lunatics into the asylum, and I stand by that. We went from having one bad referee to having two, and that's what they did. And basically, it's what the fourth official had always wanted to be at Scottish football. They now have him in situ, and he's in that porta cabin, re-refereeing games and doing it any way that they want to in person. But that's why there is no footage or coverage like that, because it's not what you're seeing when you watch the top 5 leagues and you watch the Champions League is a different VAR to what Scottish football is invested in. And it's not that commonly known amongst a lot of folk. I don't think it gets spoken about that much, but this version of it we knew about on the bus. We said for the start, if they're going to do it, they've got to go all in, and maybe, just maybe, Celtic could take a financial hit on that, which actually might be an investment as opposed to a financial hit, because if it is everything refereed perfectly or as perfectly as possible, as impartial as possible, let's have it right, then our chances of winning more games or winning league titles probably comes, or the amount of penalties that they get, for example, would drop massively. And I think you might find that league titles become a wee bit more comfortable. But anyway, we don't want to go on too much about that, but I will give you one last comment, Mark, that comes in from Stephen Kennedy. Stephen's been loving the bus recently, and it's great to have him on. Oh no, we've done that one. Stephen, good to have you on anyway. Gary88, he comes in, he says, T.N.F, much do we think Norwich will ask for Idah? It'll be silly money, no doubt. I want your thoughts on it, Mark, and I'll tell you why, because you've alluded a few times to now. Let's start tallying up this guy's contributions here, what he's done in the Celtic shirt since he came in. I think it's 6 starts, 7 goals, 6 appearances as a sub as well, something like that. Is it 5 starts, 7 sub appearances?
I think it's 7 goals, mate. I might be wrong.
7 goals, I think.
It's close to that.
Yeah, 7 goals. I'm sure it's 7, but I think it's either 5 or 6 starts, one of the two, and then the other 6 or 7 sub appearances. But Adam Idah's, I think, done a fantastic job and been a fantastic alternative option, because he is that polar opposite in terms of profile to what our number 1 striker is, Kyogo. What I like about Adam Idah, though, is I don't think Adam Idah's came up here to be number 2 either. And I think what Rodgers has over Ange, which people have said, oh, there he goes again. Rodgers can manage 2 guys competing for the same jersey without using favouritism. He will 100% do it based on his eye test. And he will not have any favour bowed to because it's Kyogo or because Adam Idah's his signing. He wouldn't then be favouritism towards him. It'll be a ruthless choice that he makes if he only goes for one up top. And Adam Idah, I get the vibe, has definitely that sort of personality where if he were to sign for Celtic, it would be to play. And certainly not that I'm going to be number 2 for Celtic, or second choice striker for Celtic. I would imagine Celtic will sign 2 strikers this summer, and it'll be back up to 3. We can't just keep doing seasons with 2 strikers. It's fucking madness. But with his goals in mind, Judge, and the impact that he's had in the Celtic team, and important goals that you alluded to as well, does that influence what his transfer fee would be, or what Norwich would desire to get for him, because he scored some goals domestically in Scotland? I'll be honest, I'm not so sure their money men will be factoring his impact at Celtic in the Scottish Premier League and the Scottish Cup all that much. I don't think it'll factor into their decision-making process as to what is a desired fee for Adam Idah. I think that's probably already predetermined by them. And will probably what they're looking for in the summer will be similar to what they were probably had penciled down in January when they let him go on loan. It's how much that would be, I suppose, is what you think. It'll be interesting to hear.
I think the biggest factor is whether his goals in Scotland makes him more desirable for other teams, and I don't think, although they've all been big goals, they're all live on Sky, they've all been important away goals basically, so it does get a wee bit of attention. I think his place at Norwich has probably already been decided, Bhoycie. I think he was sent up to Scotland to hopefully win a contract and hopefully get him off the books. I agree. We don't always know when there's price tags agreed or whatever, you know what I mean? So it could well be the case that they've already agreed. And just that we quote silly money, I think Celtic have got silly money in the bank. You know what I mean? Should we be bulking at Celtic spending, just say if I talk say £7 million, which I don't think is crazy money. If he was on loan for the full season, I think you'd probably get 20 goals with the boy. You know what I mean? Let's be honest. So if it's £7 million, you pay it. See, if it's £4 million, you pay it. But the deciding factor for me is, and if Rodgers is the manager, if he wants him, there you go. If Rodgers is the manager and he wants him, that he gets him. That's the most important thing to me, because if we're being told through whispers that Celtic are going to waking up and start to actually look at the transfer market in a serious light, which we're hearing kind of drip fed to us in the. If the manager wants him, then he's got to get him. You know what I mean? It's as simple as that. And the boy's Irish, and he's probably happy to be here. Listen, Bhoycie, his biggest attribute is his mentality. He came up here, and there wasn't not one person in no support was going, "What a signing!" I'd say 9 out of 10 folk were fucking berating the fact that he came to Scotland. He shrugged that off. Scored last minute goals at Easter Road, last minute goals at Fir Park, goals at Ibrox. You know what I mean? Goals
He's played with a bit of swagger as well, hasn't he? I think he's looked super cool, super confident.
He does. He's a player that we all wanted Sidney Van Hooijdonk to be. And do you know something? I think we get the best deal out of that. And I didn't think I'd be saying that, because he's doing there. And I think fucking Sidney Devine would have been a better signing for them.
Well, interestingly as well, I think if Sidney Van Hooijdonk came up and had the Adam Idah numbers and the Adam Idah impact, I think we'd be raving.
Aye.
I think the Raven would be there. It'd be happening, mate, right now.
I think he'd be starting.
And I think
the pressure would be on him to start.
There'd be pressure on him to start. If we can trust Brendan to be, just try to laser focused on whoever's most in front. But I think there'd be a campaign for him to start more. I think the campaign would have begun to get him permanently. Undeniable.
What between £10 million, what we got that break the bank, get him in.
Yep.
What's his Cairney's here?
I do.
Go like that, don't get older guys, you end up with hairs in your ears.
Aye. Or just didn't listen to Oasis or that, do you know what I mean? Because then you end up with loads of hairs in your ears. Because you grow your hair stupid. That is.
You end up with gazelles on. That's the other.
Oh yeah, you don't like that. You don't like that.
I saw a pair. I've got back. My feet are really sore right a bit. I saw a pair yesterday online. They were white with green 3 stripes. Different for the ones you normally see. And I thought, they look fucking great. But I couldn't wear them, boys. See my feet. I think I've got something called flat foot. It's fucking sore. I'm telling you, it's sore, mate. And don't laugh at me, because that's your next ailment. Don't laugh at me. You'll be fucking sore soon enough. But your feet's fucking. It's only one leg, I know. The other feet's fine. I can dance with that feet, but I can't walk with the other. And I thought I couldn't wear them. I said I'm walking circles quite a lot. I get there eventually.
There's Puma ones out there now, mate, that are yellow with a green stripe, or the green one. Right. You should have a wee look at the suede. They're nice, very nice, mate.
Bhoycie, I must admit, I'm total Nike, but there was a phase years ago. I used to get the Nike Adidas Post trainers. Remember the Adidas Post?
Yeah.
I got about
yes.
And I remember my pal Steg, who's probably watching. Do you remember this? I got a brand new pair came out that day. I went and got them. Went to Celtic Park, and never did I lie, spanking brand new trainers, and the lassie behind the hot counter dropped chips and curry sauce over them and ruined them. She dropped the chips and curry sauce over my trainers, fucked them, and ruined them the first day I had them. And I've never bought a pair since. But they were nice trainers. They were probably no fashionable now, but they were really trendy at the time. I think at the time they were like.
Yeah, I remember them. I will remember the Nike Posts, definitely, mate. Definitely. I used to, when I had the boozer, man, always in leopard print shoes, Leopard print shoes.
I can imagine I've seen your wardrobe. I can imagine that.
Aye, leopard print shoes, mate, with like paisley pattern shirts and that was like all the time, mate. I was like Alfie Moon's love child, man. Do you know what I mean? Alfie and Cat Slater's love child all mixed into one.
Aye, I've seen it, mate. It does. See that the biggest fashion statement you see me having is maybe having a jumper and a jacket on. That's about as brass as I get. You know what I mean? I'm quite a polo shirt and denims kind of guy, or a Celtic tracky. That's how you get out of me. I'm not the most fashionable person. I think if I went to like one of these Paris or Milan places or something like that to hang about, I think they would put me in the, in one of the hostels thinking I'm homeless. You know what I mean? I don't think I would blend in with the fashionable folk out there, mate.
Well, anyway, we went a wee bit off piece. That's been our wee hour for the Thursday night forum. I've really enjoyed that.
Bhoycie, can I ask you a question first?
Please,
just quickly.
Of course, there's no rush.
Have you read about in Turkey, Galatasaray? There's a lot of stuff going on about them, and now their VARs are going to be foreign VARs. Have you seen that? France, Italy, Spain,
and it's going to be a Mr. Hugh Dallas.
Hugh Dallas is behind. He's behind the scenes.
What a comeback!
And do you know something? See that the leaks up in arms about Galatasaray's penalty awards, how they're avoiding red cards, and see in comparison to Rangers, it's fucking diluted. So it makes you think, you know, Turkey's full of crazy folk. We all know that, you know what I mean? But I don't know, mate. If you can draw comparisons to, they've listened to the big clubs. I think Fenerbahce said something. Their FAs went, fine. Wow. Tell you what, we whacked on this. Can you imagine if Celtic, Aberdeen, Hearts stood up and asked some serious questions? I don't think we'd get the same answers, boys. It happened to us once, you remember? In Madrid with Inverness Cali 0-0 or something, Celtic Park at 1-each, we get the foreign referees. But that was because Celtic because Neil Lynn had the right to demand action taken against a referee who had to admit lying.
Why turn the pitch, mate? Like, what the fuck?
And he was caught because his earpiece, and the guy grasped the man. He was told.
Charlie Richmond, was it?
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was only Charlie. It was terrible. He was like, pretend it was offside. Mate, a microphone on.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, it's interesting when you look at the tallies of penalties awarded. I think Rangers are the top in Europe still right now for penalties awarded this season as well. It's incredible, mate. Like the numbers that they managed to get that are all in their favour, and it is interesting. Phil McGinley's coming in there as well. Phil McGinley, our loyal Bhoycie Bus member. It opens up the door for other leagues around Europe to follow suit.
That's it.
A simple, well, if they can do it, reasoning. Now, it's not just that. It's a case of, as well, these clubs that are doing this aren't doing it under the same stupid umbrella that you've got in Scottish football of, there's an agenda, and they're doing that because it's tit for tat, and they're doing that because they get paired with the other team, and it's all one-upsmanship. You know, Fenerbahce and Galatasaray is fierce rivals of Celtic and Rangers. Let's be real here. When they play, you know, I think a lot of us who go, you know, happily go to Celtic Rangers game would run after 5 minutes at a Fenerbahce Galatasaray game. That's not quite for us. I'm not that bothered about the football. Do you know what I mean? When you start seeing how they carry on at these games and the sort of vitriol between those fans, those sets of supporters. But whilst those clubs are closely aligned and associated with each other, I think when real formal complaints come in from big clubs, such as a Fenerbahce, they get taken at face value, Mark. They get taken with the merit that it deserves when these clubs are coming and going, look, here's a case, there's a dossier, these are the facts, these are the findings. We will want your reaction to this evidence that we present to you and tell us there's not a fucking rat to be smelt. And that's how it's viewed. Whereas here it would turn into a complete tit for tat, and then it would go back to, what about finances? And before you know it, it would just end up a complete joke talking about all sorts of stuff that is different from the issue at hand. Whereas I think these bigger leagues in bigger countries have the ability to take points, as I say, at face value and look at them in isolation, Mark, and go, okay, that does look like that. let's take this further, right? We're going to force change here. Whereas I think everything with us then just gets a million other layers of baggage added to it, historical ones, a lot, and then it all just drags it down. And the actual point that was trying to be made initially just gets lost in the fog, lost in the wash.
Well, exactly. It goes totally down to the Celtic v Rangers rivalry, and they just turn into something and it's not. You remember years back where there was a shame game. Rangers get 4 players sent off, 2 after the match, 6 bookings. Celtic get 1 yellow card that night, and it was mentioned in Parliament about how Celtic players need to behave themselves. You know what I mean? And you're like, no, this isn't 2 cheeks to the same arse here. It's like take each club individually, but it's the same with that. I mean, I think if Celtic had a dossier, or even Aberdeen had a dossier saying, look, this is decisions that are getting made in Rangers games that don't get made in any other stadium in Scotland. We're not suggesting bias, but I think we're at least wanting explanations. You've got Hugh Dallas running the show in Turkey, and Andrew Dallas, he's kind of like the point man for VAR, isn't he? Him and another guy, there's 2 of them that are point men. It's no coincidence that the 2 of them are making an arse at Bhoycie. You've got a guy who shouldn't have been where he was in FIFA, and you've got a guy who was elevated for a third-rate official to the first division, to the Premier League, on his dad's behest. And
fact,
it's a fact. But I think he wasn't even getting games. Bhoycie, in the end up, he wasn't even getting championship games, and that tells you all you need to know. I think he's the biggest highlight of his career is when they gave Rangers 5 penalties at home, and Gerrard said there should have been 7. You know what I mean?
Was it 5 penalties in the one game? Was it 3?
No, I thought about that's a little bit 2 years ago. Gerrard was the manager.
Was it 5 penalties he gave him in the one game?
Aye, and Gerrard said it should have been 7.
Was it 5?
Aye.
Fuck, if you asked me, because that's just instantly what I thought of when you mentioned his name was the game that you gave Rangers.
That's what I'm saying. That's
my mind, it was 3.
I
think 5 penalties.
I think Phil's on the chat. He'll check it in about half a sec.
Okay,
I'm pretty sure it's 5.
Phil just check the back of his brain.
If it wasn't 5, it was 4, boys. I'm pretty sure it was 5.
There you go. 4 penalties that smell the
4 penalties. I think even
I only thought 3, so there you go. Fuck it.
Jay said it should have been. I remember Jay said it should have been 7. Like, what? I couldn't. Was another different planet. But we don't get
what examples you got of that elsewhere?
No, you don't get. In fact, the only example I can think is when Dundee played Rangers at Dens Park, and they were given 3 penalty kicks, 1-0 down. Remember and that point they got essentially won the league, because this was like the dying embers of the season. And remember, Ferguson missed 2, and then somebody else ended up scoring to make it 1 each. But we don't get. I mean, we need to win 9-0, boys, or 8-0. That's the difference. If Celtic get 10 penalties a season, see 7 of them will be when we're going 4-0 up or 3-0 up. We don't get the ones that really matter. You look at their penalty kicks, it's not an each, it's 1-0, it's getting beat 2-1. They get penalty kicks when the referee can materially impact the score in Scottish games. And this is where VAR kicks in for me, because this is a double-edged sword with VAR. Not only does VAR give opportunity to rule out stupid goals and stupid decisions, it gives the referees a different mechanism to pinpoint really, really small decisions and justify it as a penalty kick. And we've saw the same handballs for Golston that get turned away. There would be a red card in every other stadium in Scotland. So you don't need to suggest biased. You can suggest that these things are happening when only one team's playing. Peter Hodges up and say, look, we're not suggesting that there's something behind it, but this needs looked into. And see if somebody did come in and say to the FA on the quiet, by email, by lawyers, by something on the quiet, the first thing the SFA would do is leak that stuff to the papers to put pressure on that club that did that and make them look foolish, make them look like malcontents, bad losers, you name it. Because there's no adult thinking in this country, boys. We've seen it since day one. I mean, we've still got to listen to folk talk about Hugh Dallas like he was some sort of paragon of virtue. The same guy who we all know was gifted the Fir Park game when Scott McDonald scored the 2 goals to beat Celtic. That he was gifted that match as well, was his last match as a referee because he's a Motherwell fan. Now, if you're gifted a title-defining game because you support the Motherwell team, and there's a huge hint of bias that the team playing on the other side of the country who could win the league that season, that day, were playing the same day as you, and you could impact that game, the fact that a decision was made is bonkers. It's like the Bobby Tate stuff. You know what I mean? And it only happens in this country. I don't see anywhere else that these things are allowed to happen. I really don't. And I think if you suggest adult thinking or you suggest some sort of no inquiry, you know what I mean? Nobody's died, but like a written branch look at how we make decisions in Scotland. Why is the referees going to be for Lanarkshire? Why are they all going to be Huns? I mean, let's just tell the truth here for a minute. They're all Huns based on, right? You're talking 9 out of 10 are Huns, right? Why is that going to be the case, mate? Why do I go to have second names for first names and all this? Why do I go to? Go to the Orange Lodge? And what's happened in Turkey is that they probably have sat down and went, hang on a minute, this team's got a point. This team has got a fucking point here. I don't think if Celtic or anybody else had genuine evidence, it would be looked at favourably. I think it would be dismissed. Look at the stuff with Jim Farry, Bhoycie, when he was found guilty of holding back registration for George Cadet so he couldn't play against Rangers. Then you look at Hugh Dallas. Fergus McCann hired a psychiatrist to watch that match. I don't know if you remember this, Bhoycie.
Mm-hmm.
He hired a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist said that man was making decisions based on that coin getting flung on the park.
Was it not the psychiatrist who ended up doing Big Brother's Little Brother or something like that?
Oh, was it?
Sure it was.
That's rung a bell for me. That's something
I'm sure he went on. They had a program. So you used to get like Big Brother, obviously. You'd watch that for an hour and then did like a Little Brothers episode.
I know you're talking.
I think it was once a week they would do this Little Brothers thing. It would be the psychologist talking about the housemates' behavioural patterns and look how he reacts to that, and they'd explain loads of stuff. I'm sure it was one of those that did that for me.
That's rung a bell with me for some reason. Do you know that? It really has. I can remember the headlines or at least reading about it. But I think the point still stands, boys. I don't think we would get any forward thinking in this country. Let's just take full partiality out of the way here, right? Celtic had a complaint against 2 officials, rightly or wrongly, 2 officials, and they get backed up with the officials being involved in 3 out of the following 5 Celtic games. Yep. And see, best case scenario, that's putting the referee under pressure. Worst case scenario, they did it to be nasty, to be a wee bit nasty, a wee bit naughty. You know what I mean? And I don't think Celtic have got the I don't think they'll get the fight to go in and start bringing in dossiers. I don't think even the case a couple of weeks ago there was a lawyer involved. I think that was for show. So they turn up with a white wig on and start going, look at this, your honour, and somebody will walk in, as I said, dressed up as, a referee with all this evidence. The fact of the matter is, everything that was going to be put in display that day was already well known to both sides. You know what I mean? Both parties knew it was going to be put as evidence, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure it was just a case that
Donald Finlay was busy.
Donald Finlay was busy. I mean,
do you remember he was the QC for Craig White against Rangers? So he's questioning David Murray and all that. The dog against them.
And he called them the old club, didn't he, as well? He called them the old club, didn't he? I know he went like the old Rangers.
He said as well, he says, what you did to the, I'm paraphrasing right a bit, he says, and what you did to the institution that was Rangers, the club that was Rangers. Then he just apparently turns right to David Murray and goes, our club.
Like Taggart. Like, close up. Do you remember him singing the sash? Remember he was Remember Craig Brown left a voicemail on his Bird's phone singing the sash.
Him and Sven on a night out, by the way. Craig Brown and Sven, see if they phoned me and said you're coming out for a couple of beers, I'd leave them to it, man, because they just clean up.
See what did Craig Brown?
Is he did? No.
Is it?
That's why he's not phoned.
That's why he's not phoned. He's busy. He's busy being. He's been busy being. Which, to be fair, it's a good excuse. I remember that because he survived the job.
That's Scotland manager singing the sash. That's ridiculous.
Mate, only in Scotland. I mean, see the things that.
What?
See if you back to that 90s Rangers team. See if you had mobile phones then I bet you seen them singing the sash, singing you name it, up to their knees in everything, you name it, all week in, week out. Because sure that Terry Butcher said his wife was going to chuck him because he was killing him.
Well, she's basically told him, have a look at herself, look at yourself, and what is it he's talking about? And he spoke quite poignantly on it, but I think that's like a lot of ex-players, because obviously there's a lot more documentaries or in-depth podcasts that you get, Mark, right, these days with former footballers. I think there's a lot of revisionism that goes on, and I think they try and cover up their own tracks. Like some of them, like you'll see, like you remember a player that'll be like the laziest player in the world when he was playing, and then he'll just be doing like his wee sort of post-career interview in depth with someone who go, you know, the one thing I always did in my career was give 110% every day. Like, shut up! Did you fuck? So I think Terry Butcher does that to be on the right side of the old PC stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Now, of course,
I'm not
as
convinced. I remember that Terry Butcher, for example, being at the pub round the corner from mine when I owned the one I did in the 2010s. And is it the 10s? Did you just call it the 10s?
I don't know what you call it, mate. I would just say, 2010s. I don't know what you call it. You guys.
But let's call it the 2010s, right? And around the corner was a notorious. It's a full range of season ticket holders. It was where Terry Butcher often frequented when he played for Rangers in Bridge of Allen, and he remembered it that well. He stopped his Inverness Cali Thistle. I think did they win the Scottish Cup? Did they win the Division 1 title? They won the Division 1 title. That's what he won. The Division 1 title, I'm sure. And stops the fucking bus at the Rising Sun. And he was drinking a bottle of Buckfast outside the pub and all that, like in front of everyone. Just slightly before the days of on video and everything. Meant to be brilliant company. I don't doubt that. But I would also say there's an element of staunchness, and I'm going back there with it all that I think when you see the TV version of people, there's always revisionism as to what their career was really like and what their character was like during that said career. I think as you get older and wiser, you start revisiting who you were then and putting a wiser, more mature head on the person that was actually existing at that time, which I think sometimes are naive, gullible, daft. Maybe he looks at it and goes, I never really meant what I was singing. So now it's, I had a word with the wife and I was told, just to leave it. I'm like, did that really happen? She maybe did clip your ear, but did it really stop you? I doubt it. I think that's
so. Right.
Do you know what
I don't think anybody does what the wife says, really. I mean, you would say, oh, guy, we'll get a Chinese tonight, but you want to change your manner or change your approach to life because you're missing. There's no fucking chance. I mean, if anything, you'd get worse. So probably that is a bit true. But I remember him saying on one of the programmes that he was a first Rangers captain, not to be a Mason. And he was a captain in the 1980s. Yep. I mean, wow. It just shows you, mate. It just shows you. That's been an hour and a half nearly for us. That's no bad value for money tonight. New record for us, mate.
Right, let's call it there. I'm just replying. Someone's asking. Right, okay, let's get the fuck out of here, Judge. That was great fun, mate. Thanks so much for your contributions, and thanks to everyone in the chat. By the way, we know a lot of people want to listen to Super Scoreboard and all the crying players. But we've actually had over 170, 180 live the whole night, basically. So massive thanks to all you who've stuck with us. We do appreciate it. That Friday feeling will be back tomorrow. I think Phil's good for having a more laser focused sort of look at what the fixture ahead, which will obviously follow early kick-off Saturday. Me and Terry will obviously be joining you to talk about the game after it's finished. Sunday Blether, will it be on this week? I think it's David's weekend on. I think he's doing alternative weekends now. So hopefully I'll have a Sunday Blether for you. And hey, if Hearts were to go get a result, who am I to rule out a Sunday sesh? We'll see you later. Cheers.